So Simon, obviously today's your last day as chairman of the association. How have you found your time?
It's been an interesting journey. I mean, it's been 6 years, so I'm the longest serving chairman in the BSIA's history of 57 years. I haven't been chairman for 57 years, thankfully, but just for 6 years. I think, it needed it. The BSIA was in a pretty special measures state, I would put it. We had to change out the CEO of both Skills for Security and the BSIA. And they were challenging times for the association. So contrasting that to what we have today, it's very, very different. And I believe it's in a much better place.
Yeah, I think everyone would agree that it's in a much better place and that we've come an awful long way. What do you think are the next steps? And obviously, from outside looking in, is there any advice you'd give me as the incoming chairman?
Well, I think the BSIA has got to change. It has to evolve with the needs of the market. The market is changing rapidly. The BSIA, in turn, needs to change rapidly with it. It needs to focus on what's important to membership, and it needs to be relevant, and it needs to prove to membership that it's needed. I believe it's needed. I think better together is the phrase I would use. When people unite, things, not always, but when people unite, things get done. And I think a united security industry is very important. We were talking earlier about, the public police services where there are only 150,000 police on the streets and there are 375,000 security guards. They need to work together. So the private and public sector really do need to join forces for a better and safer world. And that's not a cliche. I mean, public safety is extremely important at the moment. And I think BSIA can play a huge role in ensuring that goes in the right direction.
Excellent. And do you think that there's a marriage between that physical security type activity and the electronic security activity and the remote interrogation, the remote monitoring, etc.?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when I say they should work together, I think they should work together in many ways. I mean, you go to a football match and there'll be private CCTV and there'll be public CCTV maybe in the stadium or outside of the stadium, and none of that information is shared. So tech is a huge anchor point for both stakeholders to share and use, because tech, where it's at the moment, it's the most exciting time for technology, and especially in our industry, we're absolutely swamped with innovation and great ideas to make security a more accurate process. And at the end of the day, we want to deter, but if crimes are committed, we want to convict. And I think technology plays a huge role in that.
And where do you see that balance? Because there's lots of talk around the technology and how intrusive it can be in today's society. Do you see there being a balance between that intrusive and where crime is being committed?
Yeah. I think it should be a balance in everything. I think everything in moderation in life is good. I don't think, you don't want to be a police state, but I do believe we're under-policed. That's my personal opinion in the UK. I think CCTV is great. I think when it becomes intrusive, it's a problem. However, guys, that might come in, whether it's government level or it's just a badly installed CCTV system that happens to be looking into somebody's house, for example. So privacy concerns aside, do I think CCTV is a good thing? Yes, I personally do.
Yeah, and I absolutely agree with you. I think, we often demonise the technology when often it's not the technology. The technology is just the technology. It's how we use the technology and that information. And if there's opportunity to misuse it, and it is misused, that's where it crosses that line from a valuable contributor to something that's actually bad for things. So obviously, as you say, 6 years, a very different association that I'm going to be taking the reins of. That you obviously took the reins of back then. Any advice?
Any advice? I think you've got to lead look, the board of the BSIA is made up of the customers. And that's a very, very odd situation, because what company out there has its customers on the board? In fact, it's made up of all the customers, not just a few. So I think a board composition like that is challenging. And it is up to you as the chairperson to ensure that that is ran with rigor, but also with the flexibility to generate good ideas and get the best out of the membership, because as we've always said, you get what you put in, and as a member of the BSIA, you get much more out of it if you interact with it.
Yeah.
So that would be my advice.
Yeah. And attraction of new members?
I think you've got to prove that you're needed. I think you've got to prove value. You've also got to encourage people to a more disciplined way of thinking. However, that said, I think you shouldn't be standards obsessed, because your competition isn't. And while you're obsessing over standards, your competition may well come along and eat your lunch. So again, it comes back to that moderation.
Yeah. And I agree. Unfortunately, within the electronic industry or industries that have so many standards, they can become counterproductive. I just want to pick up on one thing. Obviously, skills for security was originally when solely owned by the BSI, kind of was sold some of that off now to allow it to grow faster and become a. Where do you see that competency piece fitting?
I think, look, competency is at the heart of everything we do. Without skills within our industry, we're in the service sector. If we don't have the skills, we're not going, the whole value chain breaks down. I mean, that's just a fact. If you're not installing products, the people who are making those products aren't selling those products, and the people who rely on them aren't doing anything. So the whole chain breaks down if you don't have the skilled workforce. So I think it's hugely important to the BSIA as a co-owner of Skills for Security. I think it's massively important that the BSIA get behind Skills for Security, not just in the security sector, but across all horizontals and verticals, and horizontals being things like IoT, Internet of Things technology, which touches everything really. That's why I call it a horizontal rather than a vertical, because a lot of people see IoT as vertical, but it really crosses everything we do, and it's involved in everything we do. So yeah, my advice is to very much embrace new talent, new skills pipelines going forward.
Excellent. Well, thank you for your time.
You're very
Thank you for
welcome.
all your hard work, because I know how much I've sat on the board alongside you and seen how much hard work you've put in. So thank you very much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much.